Hello everybody, July is here, or almost here, or possibly well underway already. Whenever you're watching this, hopefully you've got the time to play some video games because there are some brand new ones on the way. Here are July 2026's biggest game releases. Before we get started, just a friendly reminder that we do our very best to make these videos as accurate as possible, but release dates are subject to change, whether that's because of a sudden delay or perhaps a last-minute launch date announcement. Also, sometimes we forget a game or get some details wrong, so for best results, always check your local listings, and please be kind, we're only human. Now, on to the games. On July 2nd, Groove is in the Heart, and also on Nintendo Switch, Rhythm Heaven Groove, that is. The long overdue new installment in the quirky musical button matcher features more than 80 minigames, and you can play with up to 3 friends at once. On July 7th, if you're not quite done ripping and tearing until it is done, well, neither was id. Doom the Dark Ages gets a major expansion in the form of Revelations, which adds new story content, new enemies, and a new weapon in the form of a hella sick chain spear. Gnarly! That is on everything that Doom the Dark Ages is already out for. Still that day is Moonlight Peaks on both Switches and PC. This is a nocturnal sanguinarian spin on Stardew Valley in which you play as Dracula's kid, and I'm guessing the old man isn't too thrilled on your career choice. Is there a bigger insult to a blood-drinking nobleman than to spend your time toiling like a peasant growing vegetables? Well, possibly falling in love with a backpacking doofus voiced by Andy Samberg, but that's a whole other story.
Speaking of awesome, that cape thing is killing it!
If being a vampire farmer sounds stupid and you think you're too edgy and cool for that, on July 9th, you can be a pirate ninja instead in Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. As I'm sure you're well aware, this is a ground-up remake of the fan-favorite entry in Ubisoft's historically accurate parkour murder simulator. Aside from the obvious visual overhaul, this adds a slew of quality-of-life improvements and some new story content as well. That one's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC, and I don't care what anyone says, assassins are just international ninjas. Italian ninjas, Egyptian ninjas, they're just ninjas from different places that aren't Japan, except for that one where they're from Japan, in which case that's just a regular-ass ninja. Still that day is Backyard Baseball, the first new entry in the Super Deformed Sports series since 2015, which lets you engage in that great all-American pastime by controlling a gaggle of barely humanoid avatars voiced by a star-studded cast that includes Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. If I encountered one of these horrid things in real life and it opened its mouth and spoke to me with an adult man's voice, I don't think I could continue to function in society after that. Anyway, that's on Mac and PC with console versions on the way at some point.
Okay, let's do this!
If you're repulsed by the idea of a baseball game about cartoon children, perhaps a football game about nigh photorealistic college students is a slight improvement? Maybe? Well, in any case, you can toss around the old pigskin with members of your alma mater in EA Sports College Football 27, which is on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. If you rolled credits on Grand Blue Fantasy Relink and found yourself disappointed by its depressingly finite amounts of Ragnarok, well, great news because Grand Blue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok is a major expansion that includes plenty of new content, and based on the title, it's also an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord of a Norse-styled apocalypse. Or maybe it's just a cool-sounding subtitle for a JRPG. I don't know. That one's on both PlayStation, Switch 2, and PC. On July 10th, Digimon Story Time Stranger comes to Switch 2. Now mind you, it's imperative you put the colon in the right place in this title because otherwise it sounds like Digimon Story Time Stranger, which sounds like some sort of suspicious interloper in the children's section of a public library, and apologies have already made that joke when this game was released last year for Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. Also on the 10th is Echoes of Aincrad, an all-new action RPG based on the anime Sword Art Online, which ironically is a single-player game and presumably doesn't require you to be online to play it, so I guess it's more like Sword Art Offline. Either way, that is on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Usually roguelites cause time to speed up because you get sucked into a feedback loop and keep saying one more run, but on the 13th you can do some time meddling of your own in Ascend to Zero, an isometric action roguelite with some neat time manipulation mechanics. That one's on Xbox Series and PC. If you'd prefer something a little more grounded, there's Forensics Crime Scene Detective, which will let you carefully examine the ground and the walls and other surfaces in a place where something very bad happened. Are there bodily fluids on everything? Probably, but it's up to you to find out what kind of bodily fluids exactly and also probably solve a crime or something like that. That one's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. On the 15th is The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu, a Lovecraftian first-person co-op survival horror that will mess with you and your friends' heads by distorting your perceptions of reality the further into it you venture. That one's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. If you want to distort your perception of video games about trains, from relaxing simulations enjoyed by mild-mannered railway enthusiasts into something completely extreme that should appeal to loud people with backwards hats, Dense Attack is a literal training sim that is even more literally off the rails. I probably told you about this game last month, but it got delayed to July 15th. That's on the newer consoles and PC. If you want to play a baseball game that features realistic human beings playing in an actual regulation stadium, not just weird big-headed Morlocks waddling around in a vacant lot, well, you're in luck because eBaseball Pro Spirit looks like a no-nonsense sports sim that captures all of the thrills of the old ball game. That one's on PS5 and PC. A day later, there's Heave Ho 2, the follow-up to the hit 2019 physics-based party game, which now features online co-op in addition to offline, and a bunch of new gadgets that should make the experience even more hilariously frustrating, or perhaps frustratingly hilarious. That's on both Switches and PC. Still on July 16th, also on both Switches and PC, is Coldcept Begins, the first new entry in the card battler RPG dating back to the Sega Saturn that hasn't had a new installment in a decade. What is Coldcept, you ask? Well, I looked it up and apparently it is a portmanteau of cold and concept. I cold it told you that. If you want to get some exercise or work out some aggression or potentially just break a lamp for fun, there's Fitness Boxing 3, Your Personal Trainer on Switch 2. If you'd rather only simulate getting some exercise because it's too damn hot out to be jumping around breaking lamps, look no further than Instant Sports 2. That is a casual pick-up-and-play collection of 10 sports minigames which can be played instantly by 1 to 4 players on PS5 and Switch. Meanwhile on PC, there's Hyper Primate, which looks sort of like Donkey Kong 64. If Donkey Kong 64 was an ultra-violent first-person shooter about speedrunning levels using nauseatingly fast parkour skills. There's also Happy's Humble Burgatory, which looks sort of like Overcooked if Overcooked was an ultra-violent first-person co-op survival horror game about running a fast food restaurant and also running away from that thing. If you want to go viral in the literal sense, Pathogenic is a roguelike shooter where you play as a germ trying to infect a human host. If you'd rather play as a human in a time before anyone knew germs existed, there's The Guild Europa 1410, an economic sim where you climb the social ranks in the Middle Ages without ever washing your hands. Both of those are on PC. Leaving early access on PC that day and launching for all the other new consoles is Ratatan, which is kind of like Patapon, but with ratas and tans instead of patas and pawns. I don't really know much about Patapon, but when I started working at IGN way back in 2015, they gave me Greg Miller's old desk, and all that was in it was a handle of rum, a 2-liter bottle of orange soda, half a dozen PSPs in various states of disrepair, and a single copy of Patapon. What does it mean? Besides special effects, one thing that made Star Wars stand out when it was first released in 1977 was that unlike the sterile, squeaky clean look of earlier sci-fi films, this galaxy far, far away had a distinctively grimy, used future aesthetic. But if you're a neat freak and can't stand that disgusting mess, the Power Wash Simulator 2 Star Wars pack lets you blast the scum, villainy, carbon scoring, and midichlorians off a variety of greebly covered surfaces. That's on everything that Power Wash Simulator 2 is already out for. On July 20th, there's Raccoons to Riches, a roguelike deck builder in which you play as a raccoon wearing old-timey attire and managing a business. I was about to talk some crap about putting clothes on a raccoon, and then I remembered that I've had a stuffed raccoon wearing a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses on my living room wall for almost 15 years. So maybe I should make like the varmint in this game and mind my own business, which, fun fact, is what you call a group of ferrets. A group of raccoons is called a gaze, and anyone who tells you otherwise on a podcast is a fool and a liar. I'm not going to name names here. On July 23rd, there's Disgaea Mayhem, which puts a real-time, action-focused spin on the combat in the traditionally orderly turn-based JRPG series. That's on PS5, both Switches, and PC. Exclusively on Switch 2, there is Splatoon Raiders, a single-player take on Nintendo's hit series about teenage cephalopod vandals, which you can also play co-op with your poorly behaved, disgusting human friends. On Switch 1 and PC, there's Helix, Descent, and Ascent, which is a neat monochromatic puzzle adventure game. Elsewhere in the realm of mostly black and white games, there's the boss rush side-scroller Gouray. And finally, if you want to point at and possibly click on some dinosaurs, Theropods is a wordless prehistoric adventure game that looks to have some old school LucasArts sensibilities, though hopefully its puzzle logic isn't quite as obtuse. Those last two are just on PC for now. On the 24th, there's an extremely hard game, a co-op physics game that looks like a shell of a good time, assuming nobody cracks under pressure, since that might ruffle some feathers. Look, I'm clearly not having my best egg and bird pun day, so omelet this one go. That's on PC. On the 27th, there's Skills and Raids, a party-based extraction RPG where you have to manage your team members' abilities and cooldowns in real time, and this game has some really cool art, but man, maybe workshop that title? I'm not sure if this is an SEO or algorithm play, but it kind of reminds me of those businesses that name themselves common search terms like breakfast restaurant near me. Anyway, if you want to play a game that has skills and also raids, Skills and Raids has skills and also raids, and it's on PC. If you'd like to revisit a classic game from the turn of the century with a fresh coat of current-gen paint, look no further than Halo Campaign Evolved. This is a complete overhaul of Bungie's seminal shooter rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5 with a dash of brand new content and some features that weren't in the original, like being able to play the entire campaign in third person. As the title suggests, this is just the campaign, which is unfortunate considering how beloved that multiplayer was. That one's on Xbox Series, PC, and
No. Wait.
PlayStation 5? Halo's on PlayStation 5. I can't, that's weird. It just feels weird to say.
I lost something once. I lost something I couldn't live without. My identity.
Congratulations, Halo, you're on PS5. I'm not against it, it's just strange. If you want to revisit another beloved game released in late November 2001 and that recent Gothic remake didn't cut it for you, you can also play the original RPG that day in Gothic Classic. That one's hitting all the PlayStations and Xboxes on July 28th, and it's been on Switch since 2023, and it's been on PC since 2001, I guess. Still on the 28th on PC and Xbox Series is Go North, a cozy adventure centered around mazes and puzzles, and man, this month's episode really seemed like it was going to be a breeze, and then Steam Next Fest went and happened when I was mid-script, and suddenly the script got a lot longer. On the 29th, Mistfall Hunter hits PC, Xbox Series, and PS5, which is a dark fantasy extraction RPG, so kind of a solid blend between the tense PvP gameplay loop of something like Tarkov or Marathon or Arc Raiders, but with a heavy Souls-like influence, and it might sound like a combination of two things we already have a whole lot of, but there's quite a bit of positive buzz for this one after a recent beta. On July 30th, there's Kusan, City of Wolves, which clearly has some Hotline Miami DNA, but swaps out the 80s synthwave for Korean hip-hop and looks to have a bit more customization to suit different playstyles. That one's on both PlayStations, the newer Xboxes, Switch, and PC. Still that day, there's Truxton Extreme. That is a modern spin on the classic shmup series that's been lying dormant for the last 30 years, and now you can keep on Truxton on all the newer consoles and PC. Meanwhile, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 gets an enhanced Switch 2 version that day as well. On the 31st, there's Corsair Cove, an intricate city builder that's all about designing and running a shanty town of the sea shanty variety, namely a safe haven for pirates. As a 90s kid who grew up in the golden age of pirate Lego sets and the heyday of watching Hook repeatedly on VHS, this looks gorgeous, and I applaud any game that puts out a screenshot highlighting that you can drink beer on a roof with a pig. I would do that. That looks like a great time. It's probably unsafe in a variety of ways, but I don't give a Still on the 31st is The Relic: The First Guardian, a dark fantasy action RPG with a heavy emphasis on dark. The combat looks cool, at least what you can make out, but hey, if you could figure out what was going on in those epic battles in that final season of Game of Thrones, you should be able to figure this one out too. That one's on PS5 and PC with Switch and Xbox versions coming later on. Finally, Paw Patrol Dino World sends those adorable first responder dogs to an island full of dinosaurs. I don't know, guys, it seems kind of like a bad idea. A lot of those dinosaurs eat meat, and they would probably eat the dogs. I feel like this would be a lot less acceptable if they did this with a live action property. Like if they did like an Air Buddies where they go to Jurassic World. Actually, I would rather watch that than Paw Patrol. That sounds like it would be weird. Anyway, who cares what I think? You can help these public servants rack up some fraudulent overtime in a Jurassic jurisdiction on everything but Xbox One. Last but not least, Treyarch is threatening to re-release the original Calls of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2 on PS4 and 5 sometime this month. They didn't give an exact release date, but they posted 2 images of men brandishing firearms menacingly, so I think we should take them seriously. I think they mean business. Folks, we did it! I managed to tell you about all these upcoming games coming out in the month of July, which I recently learned, but have always known in my heart is National Hot Dog Month.
Just the way you like it. Extra mustard.
If you're hearing me say this, that means you sat through me talking about all of these games and making my annoying asides, and I didn't annoy you so much that you turned it off and went and watched something else instead. So thank you for that. As always, a huge thanks to everyone who helped this video come together: Amanda Medina, Logan Plant, and Chris Del Padre, and an even bigger thanks to you for watching. It'd be weird if we made these videos and no one watched them. That would be sad. This year is only halfway over, and there have been quite a few major game releases already, but they are only just now starting to really ramp up, and we are putting together a huge look ahead at 2026's biggest game releases still to come, so keep an eye out for that one. It's gonna be a doozy. And in the meantime, I will see you next month for whatever's coming out in August. I don't even know what's coming out in August. I didn't look, but there's gonna be some games. See you later.